Namaste yogis, and welcome to another installment of Yoga for the Chakras. Today we will work into our Savasana chakra, the second in our series, just above the root chakra, about 2 finger breadths below the navel center, known in Sanskrit as our Svadhisthana chakra, translating to sweetness, so our place of sweetness. Today's practice will have us using 2 blocks. So if you have 2 blocks, great. If not, just grab 2 pillows. And we'll start in a supported fish with cobbler's feet. So I find, especially in my own practice, that if the hips are tight, the shoulders are tight. They translate, they're windows for one another. So we'll begin just by settling the first block on its middle level in between shoulder blades, allowing the occiput, the base of the skull, to rest on our second block on its highest side. And then settling in to the legs, bringing the soles of the feet together, maybe a little bit wider if you're working on opening the hamstrings, maybe a little bit closer to the body if you're working on inner thighs. And then hands can come to rest just on your hip points, maybe onto your hip creases. Not necessarily adding weight at first, but just engendering a sensation of heat, starting to feel our own energy working into the space of our hips. Our sacral chakra encompasses the area of the sacral plexus, so front, back, the reproductive organs, the low belly. All these places are the central feature of our anatomy for our Svadhisthana chakra. The element here is water. So today's practice will be less about finding the perfect alignment and more about feeling the fluidity of the pose. If we think about some of the properties of water, one is its ability to take any shape. So it moves from one vessel to another unfettered, unconcerned with what shape it needs to take in order to fit. And when we use that, evoke that property of water in our practice, we think about pouring ourselves from one pose to another. We think about making shapes in such a way that we move as though a feather floats on the air. We're not trying to force anything. We're simply letting the body pour itself from one shape, one vessel, to the next. So maybe here, even starting to think about our breath as having the same ease of movement as water. As you inhale, feel the vessel of your torso expand, top, bottom, right, left, front, and back. And as you exhale, that same release, drawing into the body. We've been here for a few moments, so maybe your hands begin to travel to your inner thighs. Adding weight, gentle pressure, not forcing, but just reminding the legs that it's okay to soften, to give in. And then, because I find in this pose a lot of the times we flare the lower rib cage up, see if you can exhale and snuggle them back into the body. And as you exhale and the knees fall closer to the earth, relax the shoulders in the same manner. So every time we adjust the hips today in practice, adjust the shoulders as well. And simply breathe here for a few more breaths. If it's become too much, you can bring the knees in together. If it's just enough, stay right where you are. If you need more, travel further. Seasoned practitioners, at any time during practice, you feel the need to change it up, to make it more challenging, by all means, it's your practice. Do that. That's part of the ease, the flow of your practice. travel to the outside edges of the thighs this time. Start to root the feet down into the mat. Knees come to the sky. Gently roll just enough to your right side that you can remove your props from out from under you. Right arm supports. And then take left hand to the mat. Press up gently. Just begin to give yourself a nice little hug here. Bring your forehead to your knees. Your belly draws in. Your heart pulls back. Think gentle cat pose as we just hug ourselves, as we ease through the muscles we just stretched. And then make it your intention today to be, I go with the flow. Let go and flow. I go with the flow. When you feel tension, tightness creep into practice, ease your mind. Remind yourself, I go with the flow. And slowly return your palms back to the mat. Begin to roll down gently. Press the feet down into the mat on purpose. Pick the tailbone up so that it scoops towards the sky, and then set it back down so it's slightly closer to the heels, just lengthening through the sacrum here, giving ourselves some more space. And then as we adjusted the lower body, so to adjust the upper. Snug the shoulder blades into the spine and allow the chest to lift up slightly, but tune into that low rib cage again. If we feel it flaring up, pull it in. Allow the right ankle to connect with the left thigh. Flex the foot. Check in with the right hip here, just noticing any tension, any sensation that might be coming your way. Breathe into it. And maybe this is exactly where you need to stay today, in which case do. This is brilliant. You're getting a stretch. You're finding sensation. It works. If you'd like to move a little bit further, use an exhale to bring the left thigh closer to the chest. Thread the needle by taking your right hand through the opening. Left hand wraps around, braids fingers behind the left thigh in our eye of the needle pose. Use the right elbow to press the right thigh away and pull gently with the hands as you snuggle the hips into the body. And you can let the tailbone round up, or you can make this even more of a stretch by lengthening the tailbone out towards the edge of the mat so that we're not scooping tailbone high, we're lengthening spine. Feeling that intentionally in the outer thigh of the right hip. And then some of you who are a little more flexible may even extend the left leg and start to walk the hands towards the ankle, still pressing the right thigh out towards the back edge of your mat as you hug left leg in. So we're doing double duty, getting into the left leg as well as the right hip. But if that's too much, if you come there and you need less, take less. Feel more, struggle less. I go with the flow. And then unbind the hands, bend the left knee if the leg is straight, and let the left foot connect to the mat. Invite the right foot to move over towards the left edge of your mat, still connecting ankle and thigh. Allow left hand to reach for that right ankle, and then allow the strength of your right leg to start to press the right knee towards the back edge of your mat. Bring the right arm into a goddess arm, 90-degree bend, and then check in with those shoulders. Allow them to snuggle back in to the body if they've separated. Check in with the low ribs as you press that right knee away. And begin to just feel the untying of the knots of the hips here. If you think about movement, a lot of it begins right at the hips. And so if we're open, if we feel at ease in our hips, we move with a little more ease. We seem to float. But if we're tight in this space, it feels almost like the march of the little toy soldiers. We can feel pain in our low back. We can feel pain wrapping around the low belly. So as we find flow and fluidity in the hips, so too do we find ease of movement elsewhere in the body. And taking in a big inhale, release your left hand, draw your feet away from the mat. Cross the right leg over the left entirely. So gentlemen, this might be a little less comfortable for you and you take the bind a little less tightly. Or we cross knees right over one another, press down with the left foot, pick the hips up, send them gently towards the right edge of your mat, and then twist a little more deeply. Take the left hand to that right thigh. We'll be here for just a moment. And as we unknot the hips, so too do we want to get into the shoulders. Gaze shifts over towards the right elbow as we feel the neck, the chest release. Maybe checking in with any places of resistance here. Is there somewhere that you're holding on to that you could simply let go? Use an inhale, release your left hand, firm left foot into the ground, squeeze through inner thighs, lift the hips back up, settle them back into the middle of the mat, and uncross the legs. Maybe extend right leg and then left, reaching arms back behind you as you open up, maybe roll through ankles and wrists, and then bend the knees once more. Place the soles of the feet on the mat. Draw shoulder blades into the back line and connect left ankle on top of right this time. Feeding the left hand through the opening, right hand braids behind it. Snuggle thigh in towards the body. Make sure that you're connecting that left ankle intentionally, so you're flexing the left foot. And if you've come here and it's too sensational, bring the right foot back down. Just continue to let that left leg press away. Bringing the bind in once more. If you've let it go and you want to travel a little bit further, you can extend that right leg nice and high. Walk the hands up towards the ankle. Pay attention to the tailbone here. If you feel it start to scoot towards the sky, settle it back down. You only need to pull in as much as you need to find sensation. You don't have to bring the chest and shin together to get a stretch. It's all about finding sensation in your practice rather than being concerned with finding the deepest stretch. I think the most beautiful thing about practicing at home is that your only competitor is you. There's no one to look around, to judge yourself with. You simply feel where you are in space. If that right leg is extended, bend your knee. Place the foot onto the mat. This time taking the twist in the opposite direction, so left foot connects to right edge of the mat. Right hand reaches for left ankle. Press the left knee back and away so that it's reaching for the bottom edge of your mat. And then take your left hand into that goddess shape. Breathing gently here. Feeling that connection from the outside of the left knee, wrapping up the left side waist all the way into the left shoulder. And just taking note of those connections. Every piece of us is connected to all the other parts. As we unlock one, we may shift tension into another space. So just being mindful of those sensations traveling through the body. And tuning back into that breath. Can I create more space, more places for my body to ease, simply using my breath? Releasing your right hand from your left ankle, bring that connection back to center. And just as before, we'll take the twist a little deeper. So we'll cross knees or stack thighs, press down with the right foot to pick the hips up about 1 inch, and then settle them more towards the left side of your mat. And as you do that, you'll find that the twist is already beginning to happen. So knees fall over to the right. Right hand connects to the left outer thigh. And that left arm just stays in our goddess pose arm. Press the left shoulder back. And then begin to shift your gaze towards that left elbow. But make sure there's enough room between chin and chest. You want to feel as though you can breathe here, not as though you're choking space. Allowing each breath to create fluidity in the body, to create a sensation of opening, of release. Maybe closing down the eyes for a moment and tuning in. Where am I feeling resistant? Where am I feeling ease? How can I find balance there? Let go and go with the flow. Gently bring your gaze back to center. Begin to roll back. Right foot connects to the mat. Pick the hips up back to neutral. Allow both feet to connect to the mat. And then bring the arms down around the shins. Leave knees about hips width apart. And then rock all the way around. Big circles around the sacrum. So the sacrum is that triangular bone towards the end of the spine. And it is innervated in quite a few places. So we want to massage all the myofascial tissue around that space to ease up those nerves. To find a space so that the muscles of the low back and the glutes are not constricting those nerves. And then go in the opposite direction. Massaging out those spaces and creating more room for us to stretch as we move through practice. And then finally, because it is all about flow today, we'll take our hands behind our knees, point our toes towards the edge of our mat, tuck our chin ever so slightly, and we'll begin to rock and roll up the spine. Not only so that we feel as though we can shift from one shape to another, but so that we can find some ease of movement in the body. Next time you come up, cross your ankles, plant your hands onto the mat, and step back, downward facing dog. And it's our first one of practice, so play with it a little bit. Don't let it be the strongest down dog you've ever taken in your practice. Play with it. Shake your head out. Bend one knee and then the other. Find as much space as your body will allow. And then gently bring your knees down to the mat. Make your way into your table. So hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Belly in nice and firm, and we'll just move through cat-cow, so dropping the belly, opening the gaze skyward, and then peeling the body underneath itself, chin towards the tailbone, connecting at the navel center, and moving through at your own pace, your own breath, in a way that feels good, that makes sense. And then finally, pressing hands into the mat strongly, step the hands forward about a half space. Tuck your toes, lift into your plank. Maybe knees down for plank here if that's more in your practice, or lift knees. And we'll just begin to move through the body a little bit. So lifting the tailbone nice and high, heels lift. We'll bring the right knee into the chest. Keep that left heel lifted. Wrap the triceps around, broaden the upper back, lengthen the back of the neck so the ears are now between the biceps. And we'll start to take some big circles with that right hip. Going 3 times in one direction, and then 3 times in the other direction. Going as quickly or as slowly as you like. And then extending into our 3-limb dog. Lift the right leg a little bit higher. Shift the weight back so that we're not all into the hands. And then pull the knee into the chest once more. Think compression. So you want the thigh and chest to meet. And then bring yourself forward into your plank. Knee is still into the chest. Tap the right elbow and then the left elbow. And then all the way back. Open the hip. Breathe. Next, inhale, fill up. On the exhale, square the hips, shift forward, plank, knee to chest. Tap the right elbow, the left elbow, and then bring it all the way back. With an exhale, open the hip. As you do, try not to lose the connection of the right arm. Right armpit tracks down towards the mat. Pick the right knee up a little bit higher. Point the right toes towards the left glute. And then gently pull knee into chest. Hollow out the belly. Shift your weight forward. You're in plank. Settle the right foot down in between your hands. If you're here and you're feeling a little bit stuck, reach back. Take a hold of that foot. And then settle the left knee down. Maybe you reach for blocks. If you like, you can have them on either side of that right foot for a little bit of support. Or you can connect your hands to the mat. As you're here, start to think about the positioning of the hips. So bringing that left hip forward, right hip back, and then squeezing inner thighs like they're going to draw forward to touch one another underneath the body. Point the tailbone down, shoulders back and away. And then maybe inhale into our Anjaneyasana crescent lunge. As you do, continue to scissor the inner thighs towards one another. Big inhale, lift the heart, look up. Breathe. And then exhale, take the hands down to the mat or to your blocks. Bring the right foot center of the mat, so a little bit closer to your left hand than it was initially. Begin to flex the right ankle. So pick the ball mound of the foot off and think lizard here. Let the right knee fall out, but the foot stays center. Inhale, lift up, look up, drop into the hips, sink in. And then exhale, come down onto forearms. And breathe here. Feel here. Be okay with sensation. Maybe that outer hip is screaming and you come back onto your hands, lift up. Maybe you're on blocks underneath forearms. It should feel a little bit in between lizard and pigeon here. We'll just be here for about 3 more breaths. And because we're working into flow, maybe you rock a little side to side. Maybe you get out of the idea of having to be still in a pose. And gently walk back up onto your hands. Think pigeon now as we begin to point right toes back towards the left hip. Right knee forward, left leg settles back. Continue to keep left toes tucked. We'll stay elevated here. Instead of taking our sleeping swan like we would in yin, we'll stay elevated into an active pigeon. Now, if some of you are here and you feel like you're really floating, take a block and settle it right underneath the right hip so that you're nice and supported. Wherever you are, especially my very flexible yogis, make sure that you're still scissoring the inner thighs, just like we did in Anjaneyasana, so that you're active here, you're feeling here. Which brings me to a really good point. The Sacral Chakra is believed to be the space where we are able to emote, where we are able to feel and express feelings. So just for a moment, answer without forcing the following statement. I feel. And sometimes the answer isn't exactly what we think it should be or how we would like it to be, and that's okay. We want to be able to understand how we're feeling in the moment, not merely how we think we should feel. Taking a big inhale, and on the exhale, sigh that feeling out. Knowing that we are not our emotions. Take one more breath here. And then roll on to your right hip. Bring your left leg forward. Hug it in to the body, gentle rocking, cradling your left leg here. And we'll move right into our Agni Stambhasana, our fire log pose, letting the right leg settle underneath the left. Knees and ankles connect. I like to take my hands to my feet, inhale, lift up, and then exhale, fold. And it's not fold and give in, it's fold and activate. So we're flexing feet, we're lifting out of the hips, and we're just coming forward as far as we need to find sensation. Going with the flow, not trying to force anything. Taking those big breaths, settling any feelings that swirl around in the body. The hips are said to contain lifetimes worth of stories. And I think personally that if we spend the time to unlock the hips, our secrets will spill out. We'll come to understand the root of our behaviors. We'll understand why things happen the way they do, why we react the way we do. We just have to take those moments and feel them out. Breathe here for 2 more breaths. And then lift up back to center. We'll transition back into our pigeon. So left leg comes out, right toes point towards left hip. We'll bring ourselves back by walking hands forward, tucking the back toes, press up into our plank, knee to chest, and then land that right foot in between the hands once more. We'll take the left knee down to the mat, slide the right foot forward so that we're in an overarching lunge, and it's almost like we're moving into splits, but we're not. So if you like, you can take your blocks on either side, help them bring you up. Otherwise, we'll stay grounded with hands here, squeezing through the inner thighs. So if you think about our root chakra and what we worked in our last video, we worked into the foundation of earth about finding stability, finding balance. And now we're into that feeling of water. So maybe disconnecting your hands, squeezing inner thighs, hands into heart center, and feeling the vibrations, the energy of our muscles as they hold us in space. Feeling the energy pulling up from our feet, giving us space to move, to breathe, to feel. And finally, taking hands back to the mat. Slide the right foot back into place. Lift the back knee. Inhale as you drag that right knee into chest, and then lift the right leg nice and high and settle it down. Bend through the legs. Take a moment to feel the difference right and left. Hopefully right leg feels a little longer, right hip feels a little more open. Take an inhale, rise onto the balls of your feet, float the left leg nice and high. On an exhale, pull left thigh into chest, roll forward, you're in plank. Use an inhale, pull back, extend. On an exhale, knee in, roll forward, plank. And inhale, pull back. One more time. Exhale, pull forward, plank, hold and squeeze. And then tap left elbow, right elbow, pull all the way back. Open the hip, drop the right heel down, left underarm down, and start to feel that opening. Breathing easily. Taking that again. Inhale, roll to center, straighten the left leg. Exhale, knee to chest, roll forward. Tap left ankle, left elbow. Tap right elbow and pull back. Bending the knee, opening the hip.
Lifting left knee a little bit higher as you pull the left heel towards the right glute. Being mindful of that left underarm, let it track down. Big inhale, square the hips off. And pull knee into chest, roll forward, plank. Plant the left foot down on purpose. Bringing right knee down to the mat. Untucking right toes. Maybe reaching for blocks as we settle into our low lunge. Maybe keeping hands connected to the mat at first. And same idea, where are my hips in space? Hopefully they're square to the front edge of your mat. As you inhale, bring hands up overhead. Breathe up, lift up. Anjali asana. Smile. Feel the work of the inner thighs, squeezing, tracking towards one another, getting stronger by the moment. And then release hands down to the mat. Just as before, that lizard pigeon hybrid, step the left foot in between the hands completely. Turn the left knee out, flex the left ankle. Maybe stay lifted, stay here, or come down onto your blocks. Maybe all the way down to your forearms. And as you're here, just like before, feel it out. Maybe rock a little side to side. If you practice with me, you will notice I am rarely ever still. There is something to stillness in meditation, but I find that as I'm moving my body in space, the more dynamic the pose, the more I get to undulate, to move, to feel it out, the more beneficial it is for my body. One more breath here. Feel it. Flex that left ankle really strong. And then allow the hands to slide back. As we move towards our traditional pigeon here, we'll start to slide the left foot back towards the right hip. Left toes point. Flex the right foot. I didn't mention it before, but if you are used to practicing pigeon with your shin parallel to the front edge of your mat, you're more than welcome. This is just a little kinder to the hip. Since we haven't really produced a lot of heat in that left hip yet, this gives it a little more space. Then of course you're welcome to chalk that hip. It's really nice option to use your props when you need them. And staying lifted, pressing back through the right heel, trying to bring that right hip around. So a lot of the times we fall into that left hip and we leave the right hip floating. But almost imagine that someone's coming around with their hand and just pressing that flesh back down towards the earth. Breathing in here, getting strong here. Maybe checking in with the glutes. They are an infamously lazy muscle. So think about someone coming around and poking you, saying, hey, are you awake in there? And breathe. So from our pigeon, working into our double pigeon here, beginning to step the hands forward a half space, rolling to the left hip, bringing the right leg around, and cradling it in the crook of your arm, and just rocking right and left. Being okay if it looks more like this, if it looks more like this. However, you can start to get that rotation into the meat of the outer right hip. Begin to settle the left leg down towards the mat as you stack the right leg on top of it. And if you're here and you don't quite feel that connection of knees, you can always take one block here, the other block under the other knee, and you build the same exact shape, but one that makes sense for you and your body right now. Flex the ankles, take your hands to your feet as though you're making Anjali mudra, roll shoulders back, and then begin to melt forward. And it's only a fold until you find the place you need to be. It's never how deep can I go. There's no competition, it's just you. You can pause the video and stay here as long as you like, figuring it out. There's no need to rush, to hurry, to fall in deeper. And then checking in, tuning in once more. I feel.
And we're not always taught that feeling is okay. As small children, we're taught to be the brave little soldiers, to suck it up, to hold it in, not to cry, not to feel what we're feeling. We're too emotional. But on this place, on this mat, be emotional. Feel the feelings. Understand the root of them. We can only move past something if we identify where it's coming from. So awareness of our feelings, so that when they bubble over in other aspects of our lives, we know why. We know how to deal with them, how to breathe through them. Gently rock onto that left hip. Begin to bring the right leg back behind you as we move towards our pigeon once more, tucking the right toes. Left knee points forward. Step the hands just about a half step in front of the knee. Tuck the right toes, lift left knee into your chest, hold, squeeze, feel, and then let that left foot land once more. Right knee connects to the mat as we slither the left foot forward, coming in to our overarching lunge. Now you may be here and thinking, no. In which case, grab your blocks. And something I didn't show you on the other side that's really useful for some of us, especially those of us with tight hamstrings, chalk the block underneath the space just in front of the ischial tuberosity so that the meat of the hamstring is being supported. We're not quite sitting on the sits bones itself because that causes a little bit of stress, but we're chalking the meatier part of the hamstring. And if you're here and you're feeling stable, maybe hands into heart center once more, feeling that connection. We're grounded down. The earth is supporting us, but we're pulling up. We're finding fluidity in practice. We're changing the way we traditionally take shapes. We're exploring. Breathe. Allow the hands to connect to the mat. Once more, drag left foot back, lift the back knee, hug into the chest, and send it all the way back. 3-limb dog. Left leg comes down. Firm into your downward facing dog here. Fingertips connect, shoulders wrap, ears in between the biceps, belly up and in, and you're pressing the front of your mat forward as you're dragging the back of your mat back. All 4 corners connect to the mat, toes connect on purpose. Lift onto the balls of your feet, articulate your tailbone up higher, continue to press the forearms away from the mat, then settle the heels down. Maybe they connect, maybe they don't. Just breathe. And slowly we'll undulate forward, so feeling a little flow. Bend the knees, draw the chest towards the thighs. Ripple forward as you round through the back. Bend the knees, drag the forehead to the mat. And then begin to take these body rolls. We'll do about 3 more as we feel ourselves moving in space. Last one. Rolling, lifting, coming all the way into our plank, bending knees and settling our hips down on to our heels. Settling into Vajrasana, bringing the ankles together, separating the meat and sitting down. As we shift towards a little more cooling air practice, take your right hand and place it in your lap. Left hand will settle right on top of it, and then we'll complete the circuit by connecting the thumbs. We'll roll the shoulders back, belly in, press down with the feet. Feel that rooted sensation. Hover the hands just in front of the sacral plexus, so just about 2 finger breaths below the navel, and begin to breathe. Maybe a little slower than we did when we were balancing in our lunge. And it's as though your hands are the vessel holding your feelings. Here in our dhyana mudra, not only a mudra for meditation, but also one for balancing and nourishing this chakra, you can feel as though you're holding that ball of energy, that microcosm undulating, moving. And within it swirls all the feelings that we encounter day to day, minute to minute, moment by moment, breath by breath. And every single one of them deserves space to be felt. Every single one of them is there to teach us something. So breathing into the I feel. And remembering our affirmation, I go with the flow. I feel the feels. I acknowledge them. I name them. I recognize their importance to me, and then I let them go. I don't become absorbed in them. I don't let them take over my mind. I simply feel them and work towards understanding them. And taking a big inhale, open the eyes, gently release your hands to the mat. Swing feet out in front. Slide the hips towards the heels as you settle in towards the front of your mat. And since we have spent so much time in the hips, I just want to take a gentle fold here. Your gentle fold might involve the use of blocks. It might be for sensitive hamstrings and we bend into that same hug from before. But I just want us to take a moment to tune in. To settle any sensations that we stirred up that need a moment to settle. And then gently use an inhale to lift back up. Extend the legs out in front. Start to roll back on to your back. Keep the left leg extended, but bring right knee in. Squeeze it into the body. And then take a hold of the outside edge of the right foot as you settle into your half happy baby. Left hand connects to left hip. And if you think about it just for a moment, you're essentially in lizard on your back. So for the first few breaths, how could you make that active? Flex through the left ankle, press through the heel, pull down with the foot as though your foot were pressing into the earth. Draw the belly in, broaden the chest, lift the chin gently towards the sky and smile. You're doing an advanced asana. You're opening hips in the best way possible. And gently bring the right shin across the chest, hook the right foot in to the elbow, press the shin towards the chest, and breathe. You're in pigeon on your back. And pigeon is one that stirs up a lot of emotions. Just give it a moment to swirl and then release. Extend the right leg out long as you bring the left knee into the chest. Squeeze it in on purpose. And then slide left hand to the outside of left foot, right hand to right, hip flex, left foot, press through right heel. Feel as though you are standing. How would this feel? What muscles would you use to be here? Pour yourself into this pose as though you were standing in it. Hook the left foot into the right elbow, slide the left arm around, and then pull shin to chest. Breathe. Feel. Find sensation in a way that makes sense for you. Bring both knees into the chest. Wrap the arms around. Tiny, tiny little ball as you bring forehead to knees. And I like to end how we started. So just for a few breaths, bring the soles of the feet together. Let the knees sway wide.
Snuggle the shoulder blades into the spine. Take the upper arms, dig them into the mat, and lift your chest up, arching through the thoracic spine. Lift the chin, get into the C-spine, and then take your hands to your hip flexors. And breathe. Feeling the warmth of your hands, maybe feeling the warmth of your hips. Warmth is simply energy leaving the body. It's an expression of energy. Things worked, we got hot. It was exactly what our body needed. And slowly untuck the shoulders, bring the chin back to neutral. Hands come down by our side. Legs extend out long, right and left. Breathing here. And starting to settle. Maybe settle isn't quite the word you would use right now. Maybe practice has some things swirling around in your mind. And that's okay. I go with the flow means being okay with everything that pops up, even and especially the unexpected. Tune back in to the rhythm of your breath. As you breathe in, feel expansion, top, bottom, right, left, front, and back. Feel how each inhale takes the shoulders and the hips further away from one another. When your next exhale comes around, allow the lower ribs to knit into the body. Soften the eyelids, the skin across the cheeks. Even relax the bottom jaw. I go with the flow. And for the next few minutes, allow your breath to carry you from this place. Let go. Let be. And I'll call you back when it's time. I think we've all heard that the hips are thought of as the emotional junk drawer of the body. We hide things there. We stuff it away for safekeeping. A lot of it stems back to trying to be that brave little soldier. A boot and rally, smile, do what you gotta do attitude that we're taught to evoke. but that keeps us stuck. That cuts us off to our emotional body. That energy has to go somewhere. If we don't manage it properly, if we don't allow it to flow, it can come out in ways that we don't like, in ways that don't best serve us. When you're ready, just slowly begin to open and close the hands, the feet, roll the ankles and the wrists, swallow and awaken the throat. Maybe take a full body yawn as you lengthen toes out in front and arms back behind. Bend your knees, press your feet, roll to your left side. Use your left arm as a pillow. Settle for a moment. When you feel ready, press your right hand in to the mat, rise to seated, crossing your legs, hands come into heart center, softening the eyes. I go with the flow. I feel the feels. I don't get stuck and hiding away. I go with the flow. As always, it is a pleasure and a privilege to share sacred space with all of you. Namaste. Thank you so much, yogis. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and click that notification bell. More videos will be coming your way. You can also catch me on Instagram for yoga challenges and all kinds of fun insights. Thank you.